For decades, British humour ruled the world. Dry, dark, self-deprecating, and just the right amount of absurd.
Hello, Polly! Polly!
From Monty Python's surreal sketches to the in-betweeners' uncomfortable situations, laughter was Britain's greatest exports. But somewhere along the way, that star began to fade. Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we'll be exploring what may be leading to the apparent death of British comedy.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
It's no longer just for us. We can open with a very glaring issue facing British comedy right now. Once, British comedy felt uniquely British.
What a schmeat. What a schmeat. What a schmeat.
It lived in awkward silences, in class anxieties, in jokes so local they needed no passports. The laughs came from the weirdness of the lives we live and the sheer audacity of saying the quiet parts out loud. That's simply no longer the case. Given how expensive TV shows are to produce, British production companies just aren't satisfied with making comedies that appeal to only us Brits. Now the room has been renovated for exports, global platforms, co-productions, and the promise of American audiences ask for a cleaner, brighter, friendlier laugh.
Did I set out to be governor of a women's prison? I did not. Was this the Tier 1 dream? No. Was it the Tier 2 dream? Barely.
The notes come in, make the lead more likable, explain the slang, speed up the pace, lose the silence, give us a big hug at the end. Good for audience reach, bad for what makes British comedy speak to us. When you write for everyone, you sand off the splinters that made it British in the first place. The characters become flat, jokes stretch across the Atlantic and snap on the way. We get universal setups, universal payoffs, and very little that makes you go, huh, I could see that happening to me. The situation with The Office kind of illuminates the issue here. The original thrived on discomforts, the remake added warmth. It worked for them, it was a great show in that regard. But the danger is we start pre-softening at home, essentially pre-creating the remake before we've made the thing ours. At the end of the day, there's just gonna be too many things lost on overseas audiences. Format shift.
No fork handles. Handles for forks.
While the sitcom format still has some footing in the UK, sketch comedies, which have always been equally well regarded, aren't faring the same way these days. Sketch shows like Monty Python's Flying Circus and The Two Ronnies defined the genre for decades. These shows and their like brought us memorable characters, sharp writing, and unique comedic worlds. Even in the 2010s, modern ones such as Limmy's show proved the format could still thrive. However, in the 2020s, British sketch comedy seems to be dying, or at least losing some of its spark. Sure, we're grateful that Mitchell & Webb took another swing at the genre in 2025, but honestly, that left a lot to be desired.
Should I put the shoes in the tray?
In the tray?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the jokes simply didn't land like the show's previous incarnation, and now, given that it wasn't the success people expected it to be, it can only hurt the genre as companies will once again think it's not worth the risk in developing a show of its kind.
That must be very difficult.
Yes, it is.
But what else could have caused people to have lost their interest in sketch comedy shows? Well, one suggestion is YouTube and other short-form media platforms. They rewired our attention, our expectations, and the economics that once underwrote slow-burn brilliance. The algorithm rewards immediacy, a punchline every 6 seconds, a thumbnail that grins louder than a studio audience. Sketches become skits, characters become click-through rates, and patience becomes a penalty. So, in many ways, it's our fault that sketch shows are less prevalent than before. So where else has all this effort in the comedy sphere shifted? Well, to perhaps the laziest format possible, the panel show. Panel shows certainly have their pleasures. Amiable chaos, the delight of a perfect ad-lib. But as the main course rather than the side dish, they flatten the palate. The same faces circle the same topics, producing a conveyor belt of cleverness. Yeah, it's highly watchable, instantly clippable, but rarely memorable. Jokes arrive pre-trimmed for the timeline. Anecdotes land like well-trained pets. The laugh is there, but the aftertaste is faint. Sketch shows demanded a different muscle. They built worlds in 3 minutes. A daft cashier, a pompous doctor, a bleak little office that looked suspiciously like yours. They let new writers fail loudly and odd performers succeed spectacularly. They made room for visual jokes, tonal left turns, and characters who followed you into the week. But of course, executives love panel shows because they're cheap, safe, and scalable. The audience watches them because they're comfortable, but comfort is where comedy goes to nap. If British TV wants its funny bone back, it needs to fund the weird again, and not just have performers who are already on 3 podcasts.
Hans, are we the baddies?
Star power. British comedy had giants, not just great writers and performers, but cultural icons.
I really did think old Flash would have turned up.
Think Rowan Atkinson, Victoria Wood, John Cleese, French and Saunders. These weren't just comedians, they were household names, the kind of people you would cancel plans to watch. But today, the star power's pretty much gone. Whenever someone gets remotely popular, they usually take off to America. Just look at the likes of Matt Berry and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who gave us some of the sharpest British comedy performances in years, then quickly moved on to Hollywood. Not to name names, but a lot of the new faces of British comedy feel forced. They just don't have the it factor that made a lot of our icons so likable. But regardless, you still see them pop up in every single panel show, every celebrity game show, and every chat show, trying desperately to get that viral moment. They've got good agents, we'll give them that. But of course, star power is a double-edged sword. When nothing new is working, you have to fall back on the old safety net of nostalgia. When old favorites are constantly being rebooted, referenced, or milked for spin-offs, it signals a lack of confidence in fresh ideas.
It's him, the Holy Poppadom.
Reviving Red Dwarf or Spitting Image might draw viewers, but it also suggests the industry is leaning on the past glory rather than shaping the future. Even new shows often borrow the tone or aesthetics of older ones, hoping to tap into lingering affection. The danger is that comedy becomes a museum exhibit, preserved, revered, but no longer alive. If creators keep mining the past, they risk burying the future under it. The need to not offend.
Now, I'm getting the word nonce.
Now, obviously, comedy has to adapt to the times, and it's great that a lot of tired, offensive tropes in British comedy are dead. But many would argue that there's a clear overcompensation when it comes to avoiding any kind of backlash. With every joke potentially weaponized online, creators often avoid controversy altogether. The problem is, British comedy has always thrived on discomfort, whether it was Basil Fawlty's explosive meltdowns or Brass Eye mocking media hysteria. Shows dared to be abrasive, unpredictable, even hostile to viewers' expectations. Today, much of the comedy landscape feels meticulously polished. Risk is replaced with relatability. It's not that there's no edge, it's that the edges are now sanded down to meet guidelines and appeal to those broader markets or avoid stepping on toes. The result? Comedy that's tidy, marketable, and forgettable. Many recent comedies also carry strong social or political messages, which can be powerful, but also risk becoming didactic. The balance between storytelling and messaging has shifted, and in some cases, the jokes take a back seat. Shows are more likely to be praised for cultural importance rather than their actual comedic impact. While it's essential for comedy to move forward and reflect society, it shouldn't forget to be funny. Otherwise, you end up with scripts that feel more like lectures. There's a sense that comedians are pre-apologizing before they speak. Whether you see this as progress or paralysis, it's undeniable that fear of public backlash has made many shows cautious to the point of blandness. The funniest comedians used to provoke thought and outrage. Now, they risk becoming crowd pleasers by necessity, not choice. Is all hope lost? So, after everything we've just gone through, is that it? Is British comedy dead? Of course not. Britain still arguably has the most elevated form of comedy, at least that's what we believe, and there's a number of critically acclaimed programs that carry the spirit on. Just look at the likes of Brassic, Motherland, and the one and only Philomena Cunk.
Why did the Russians launch Spunk into orbit?
At the end of the day, part of it is on us, the viewers. We need to watch and support these comedians and comedy shows that are actually trying, and in most cases, succeeding in creating something that moves the genre forward and proving that British comedy still has some fight in it.
I'm not depressed. I'm in the middle of a redemption arc.